Alrighty, so let's say you're ready to start and become a homeowner. You're looking for homes on Zillow, hopefully not, but hopefully my site that I'm sending you through homes.com. But whether you're ready to look or you're planning to look in the future, there's a couple questions that I want you to develop to build your own personal filter as you go through these different listings to determine, is this a home that's gonna work for me? Let alone, is this a home I should send to my realtor to vet for me? Because you can also help me with this process. And instead of me instantly telling you, oh, not a good one, not a good one, not a good one, you have a couple questions you can go through yourself to determine, is this one actually gonna work? So there's some ways to read listings and kind of look for these. So number one thing I want you to think of, and this might be for someone who's looking for a fixer-upper. So you want a good deal. You don't really want to pay the fully rehabbed price on a property. So we're finding something that's a couple years old, might be 30 years old interior. Even sometimes we'll find properties that are exactly like they were in the 70s, same condition, right? I love those ones. Usually those are like little Japanese families that just never move anything and it's exactly the same. But it doesn't mean that the home is necessarily going to fall apart or it's in poor condition. It could be in immaculate condition. However, it's older. So there's a couple things we want to look at. Number one, before we even tour the home, I want you to get a visual on the pictures and just start to look and be like, is there any evidence of pest damage or destruction or anything? And when we're looking up in the rafters and like in the carport, is there any evidence of termite stuff? And it can be kind of hard to see from a picture, but that's also a question you're going to want to look through as we're showing the property. So for me personally, when I'm going through a home with clients, I'm looking at the tops of all the ceilings and where the walls meeting the ceiling. I'm looking at all the baseboards. I'm picking up rugs and looking underneath them on wooden floors to look for any termite damage. In the kitchen, I'm looking for cockroaches and ants and you name it. A lot of the times kitchen cabinets will have termites in them too. And so we're opening cabinets. You know, we really are being kind of detectives in a home when we're doing showings. And a lot of the times it goes overlooked and then sure enough, we'll do the home inspection or the termite inspection and it could kill the deal. So it's a waste of time and effort on anyone's part if we don't do that initial filter when we're initially looking at homes. The second question I want you to ask is going to be structurally. So big thing here is, especially with some of our homes on hills, we have a lot of concrete and foundation work that ends up splitting and cracking over time with settling or maybe heavy rains and water coming down the mountain. You're gonna notice some structural damage that could be a make or break it for your home. Sometimes you can see it visually, like I said, from listings online, or the description might emphasize it. Sometimes it's not obvious to the eye. And so that might be like on a post and pure construction home, like a plantation home, for example. Looks great from the outside, right? We don't know, but until the home inspector crawls underneath the home and starts to look at the actual post and pier structure, we might not know. We can sometimes tell when we're walking in houses. There has been some crazy ones I've been in that feel like you're literally in a fun house where the home is like slanted on the floor. That's gonna be a big red flag, right? So if you do find structural damage, it's not necessarily a deal killer, but it is something that we're gonna want a specialist to look at. So sometimes we'll bring in a structural engineer to do this inspection, and sometimes just your regular contractor or handyman can give you a quote for the repair to determine if it's something you want to ask for in form of a credit or if it's something you're willing to do the replacement on your own. Next thing we're going to talk about is electrical. So again, not something you can necessarily always tell from a picture, but if a home is, pre-1990, we're looking to see, is the wires on the exterior of the walls, are they visible? What kind of outlets do they have? Sometimes you'll be able to notice if it's really older electrical, like what's the situation? We can also ask the agent up front. I'm more than happy to relay the information to the listing agent. Just ask, hey, has the electrical been upgraded since the construction of the home? If so, what's the condition? How's the meter box looking? All that kind of stuff, especially if you're going to be using an electric vehicle or you want to add any kind of solar, we are going to want to know those things in advance. So just looking as you're browsing online, if it's an older home and it's in a 1960s, 1980s condition, you're probably going to need to do some form of electrical upgrades, which could make or break a deal depending on that price. And just again, asterisk here real quick is if you're browsing a home and you know you got to do this work, it doesn't hurt to ask an electrician during your home inspection period to start getting some of those quotes in advance. Okay, we don't always have to wait for you to get keys. So as you're looking through these things too, also take note of the year of the home, like I mentioned, but is the plumbing condition going to be okay? Again, some of this has to do with the orientation of the home on the property. Is it septic? Is it city, sewer, all of that good stuff? Is the plumbing on the exterior of the house? What's the condition? Is it pipe? Is it copper? It's just something to keep in mind and kind of add to your personal filter as you're browsing for these homes. A new plumbing job is not cheap. I mean, we're talking, $20,000 to $50,000 to have your house replumbed if it's all original and, corroded. not a good deal. There is some plumbing products now that will actually line the pipes and you don't need to replace them completely. Again, it's not cheap. It's gonna be $10,000 to $15,000 to do this. And that's not always an amount that a seller is willing to give you to do that if the home is functional as is. But you know, as the owner, you're gonna have to do that on your own. That could be a deal breaker, right? So just something to keep in mind. Number 5 is gonna be the location and the orientation of the home. So I see a lot of really great deals in places like Kalihi, right? It's like listed for $700,000 for a single family home in town, in the valley. It's beautiful. Well, the home's probably not beautiful at that price, but the neighborhood is great, right? We know the proximity to everything is awesome. However, the location matters, right? We gotta look at your neighbors. In Kalihi Valley, it's an area where unfortunately you could get a hoarder next to a renovated, next to an original 1950s, next to a renovated. Like, it's just, everything is not gonna be cohesive. So if that's a deal breaker to you, and you're not going to Google Maps with that address to really do that little person point of view, walking around and checking out the neighbors, that could be a waste of time for both of us if we end up going there and you could have just looked on Google Maps that you didn't like the neighborhood. So location is big. I also want you to be aware of the surroundings of the home, including not only just the sides, but the front and the back. What is the driveway access like? There are some homes where the driveway is so steep, I'm terrified to take my car up there. So I park on the street and I walk up 200 feet to the house. Sometimes too, they don't even have the driveway. It's just steep stairs going up, you know, it's a little bit crazy. And so with that, if you're on a hillside or somewhere that has elevation, we're gonna wanna be really concerned with water runoff. And this could even go for somewhere that's flat, but if there's any bodies of water nearby that you're at risk for a flood zone, we wanna be aware of that, right? And that's actually something that we disclose now is our seawater rise level in case there was a 2-foot increase or a 5-foot increase over the next 100 years. This is something we legally have to disclose with our offers so that you as a homeowner are aware of the potential flood risks. Just living on an island is part of life and seawaters are rising, right? So you want to be aware of that. And that includes canals and all those things and rivers. So orientation, being aware of the surroundings is really important. Every single listing that you like, end up going to Google Maps, doing the little point of view person perspective, doing the circle turnaround 360. Do you like the neighbor? Do you not? What's the aerial view? You know, really just try to get a good comprehensive sense. If all 5 of your questions are confirmed that you're good, or you're at least like a 7 or 8 out of 10 confident that this home is still gonna work, then you can send it to me and then we can schedule that showing. Of course, as a reminder, with the new 2024 rules, you're always gonna need your buyer's representation contract in place before we can ever open a door for you now. This is the new rules by law that we're required to uphold. So if you don't have that buyer's representation agreement yet, let's talk about it. If you haven't hired your agent yet, I want you to download in the description below. I have 20 questions to ask your realtor to make sure you're vetting true professionals, not just hobby agents or someone who answered your call based on a listing you clicked on. I really want you to vet this person because this is not only the biggest purchase of your life, most likely by buying in Hawaii, it's probably the most stressful, right? Because it's just a lot of unknowns with Hawaii real estate. So you're gonna want someone who can be a true guide and help educate you and give you confidence for your next move. So with that, guys, I will see you next week with another video. Thank you so much. Bye.